You can easily find out your child's reading level just by knowing a couple of books that they already know how to read. Hi, I'm Stacey with Kids Learning for Life, and being able to know what your child's reading level is will make it easier for you to help them find other books that will be perfect for them. There are lots of different reading assessments that you can use, from free to paid, and they do have some of their advantages, but the method I'm going to show you today is just going to give you a quick overview and for you to be able to find what your child's reading level is so that you can use that to find other books that they might be interested in. This method has worked wonders for me because when my kiddos were starting to get to that chapter book stage, it was really hard to find books that were at their level. Some, if I picked a chapter book, it would either be too hard and I didn't know what to do. So by being able to understand reading levels and what my kids' reading levels were, I could better pick out these chapter books to know that it was actually at a level that my kids could read. All right, so all you're gonna need is a couple different books that you know that your child can read on their own. So this is either out loud to you and that you know that they can read it pretty comfortably so that you can use this book as a starting point when looking up your child's reading level. So for this next part, let's hop over to the computer and I can show you a couple of websites that I utilize for this step. Okay, so the first website we're going to be looking at is the Lexile Find a Book. So Lexile actually has its own measurement of reading level. So you can see here, you can go to any grade, let's just say third grade, and say that your student's assigned reading is just right. So it will tell you what a typical Lexile range is for a third grader. So if you did want to know what a typical range was, this is one way you could find that. So this range is actually pretty wide to just be able to say any book into 255L to 760L. So we're going to narrow this down a little bit more. So what you're going to do is in the quick search, you are going to type in one book that your child is comfortably reading. I'm just going to type in A to Z Mysteries and push enter. So what comes up is A to Z Mysteries is an entire series. So you can see that these books range in kind of the high 500s, so the 550 to 600 range. So that is definitely more of a narrow range to be looking at. So now I know if my child is able to read this series comfortably, they're at least in this high 500s range. So let's type in another book that my son can read, but is a little bit more difficult for him. So I'm just going to type in The Iron Giant and push enter. And so here, this book is actually at a 770L. So after having my son read this book, I did see that it was definitely on the higher end of his reading level. He had more mistakes. There were more words that he kind of came across and had to really think about. So now I can kind of tell that my son's range is probably from the mid 500s to this 800 range. And so with that information, all you have to do is go back to the main search page, and now you can search for books in the 550L to, let's say, 800. And then you click on search, and now I'm going to get a list of a bunch of different books that he might be interested in that are in this range. So you can see here, there's many more. It loads every 25 books. You can also come over here and apply more filters. Do you want fiction books? Do you want nonfiction? What sort of categories do you want? And then when you apply those filters, you're going to get even more targeted suggestions. Now, I wanted to show you Lexile first because I found it to be the most user-friendly and it had the widest range of books in here. But another site I wanted to mention was the Scholastic Book Wizard. So here you can enter the title again. So I'm going to enter The Last Firehawk. And it comes up with, again, this book, and then it will tell you lots of information over here. The grade, the guided reading level, the Lexile measure. So again, that was what we were just looking at. And then the DRA level. So these are different scales of reading levels. But again, I like Lexile just because it's easy and their website is very user-friendly. So what you can do once you find a book that you know your child likes, you can click the Book Alike button, and then it will give you other books that Scholastic has that would maybe be a good fit for your child. Now, one downside to this website is I am seeing that it's only really the Scholastic book selection. Now, they do have a lot of books to choose from, but this is not as broad, so you can't just find any book here. But if you know that your child has a Scholastic book or is interested in any of the Scholastic series, this could be a good place for you to start. So the last website I wanted to show you that works similarly is the Renaissance Accelerated Reader Book Finder. I don't find this one to be as user-friendly, so if we type in the Iron Giant, it does come up and it does give you some information based on the accelerated reader. So here's their book level 4.7, and then it tells you what the interest level is for K through 3. So if you did want to use this website, you would just be going off of the ATOS book level and then find a couple books just like we did on the Lexile site and figure out what your child's reading level range is. One thing I did find very interesting with the Accelerated Reader Book Finder is back on that main page, you can go to collections and they actually have books with awards or what kids are reading. So you can come in here and check each year. So let's just go with this year and the top 20 fiction, nonfiction books, and then they even have it by grade. So let's look at third grade. What are third graders excited to read? So here's A Bad Case of Stripes, The Bad Seed, Because of Winn-Dixie. So this might give you an idea of some of those books that might interest your child based on this is more grade level rather than reading level, but I did think it was kind of fun to see some of these popular options for the year. So hopefully these 3 websites have given you a rough idea on what your child's reading level is so that you can go back to these sites and start typing in their reading level and getting back a list of books that would be appropriate for your child. A few quick notes about reading level. Reading level is strictly just what level a student is based on reading, so like phonetics and sight words and things of that nature. So it kind of gives you an overall level. It does not tell you if the book is appropriate for your child. You will still want to preview any books that you have your child read to make sure that you think it is appropriate for them and your family values. You can utilize websites such as Common Sense Media or Compass Book Reviews. Both of those websites have pretty extensive lists with reviews on books, breaking it down into maturity levels, letting you know if there's any violence or if there's any drugs or anything that you could imagine. They kind of give it a scale rating so that you can go, oh, okay, this is probably okay. I definitely find these websites very helpful, especially for parents that have those more advanced readers, because students are at a higher reading level. But as you get into higher reading levels, that doesn't necessarily mean that the content is appropriate for younger students. Another quick note is that something else I have found is for struggling readers. If you have an upper elementary or even in a middle school reader that is reading more at a first, second, or third grade level, it can be really hard to motivate them to start learning because they're not going to open up a Bob book or the beginning series of different curriculums because they are all geared at that first, second, third grade level to get those age kids excited. One website that I recommend for those readers is called High Noon Books. High Noon Books provides high interest but low reading level books. So what that means is that they are designed for older students that have a higher maturity level and want something a little more interesting, but by still keeping the words and the actual content of the books at a lower reading level. Now that you have a list of books that are right at your child's reading level, you're probably wondering, how do you get your kid to love reading? Well, Jenny has a video all about this and how she uses Free Reading Fridays to get her kiddos to start loving reading. Happy homeschooling, and I'll see you next time.